the audience just wouldn't let us go. They just wanted more and more and more, and in the end we just exhausted everything that...
They wouldn't let us leave. No matter how much we gave them, it was never enough. One more song, then another, and another after that. The audience kept pulling us back on stage, demanding more and more, until we'd burned through everything. Every idea, every instinct, everything any of us knew individually and collectively. By the end, we were running on fumes. I think we even played I Saw Her Standing There right at the very end. The encores just kept going. It felt like the night would never stop. Now, cut to silence. A quiet night in an old London home. The amps are dead still. The guitars rest against the wall like tired veterans after too many battles. Jimmy Page sits alone, surrounded not by noise, but by memory. The chaos, the success, the temptation, the madness that once followed Led Zeppelin everywhere they went. The wild tours, the forbidden nights, the rumors that grew larger than truth itself, the heartbreaks no one ever wrote songs about. All of it feels distant now. And in this rare moment of honesty, Jimmy admits something almost unthinkable. There were 5 bands that were better than Led Zeppelin. Not because Zeppelin failed, but because these bands changed the world in ways even Zeppelin never could. He closes his eyes. The first giant appears instantly. The Beatles. There was no escaping them. The Beatles didn't just dominate music, they reshaped human culture. Page remembers standing in studios in the early 60s, watching their revolution erupt in real time. 4 young men from Liverpool shattered the old rules and built a new universe where rock could be art, intimacy, poetry, theater, and rebellion, all at once. The world was hypnotized, screaming fans, airport riots, a level of hysteria that felt closer to religion than fandom. Their evolution, from the innocent optimism of Please Please Me to the psychedelic cathedrals of Revolver and Sgt. Pepper, changed the palette every musician painted with. Their perfection forced Page to chase a bigger sound, a darker vision, and something far more dangerous. And when he realized just how massive their shadow truly was, he understood something essential. Led Zeppelin couldn't just be a band. They had to become a myth. From that realization came the next force that fueled his aggression and competitive fire. The Rolling Stones. The Stones were poison. The Stones were seduction. The Stones were the night London warned you about. And yet, young musicians like Page ran straight toward it. They didn't just rebel, they weaponized rebellion. They weren't trying to be accepted, they wanted to break the world and rebuild it in their own image. Page admired that fearlessness deeply. While other bands wanted to be adored, the Stones wanted to be feared. They took the blues and dragged it through lust, ego, hunger, and raw electricity. Mick Jagger moved across the stage like a man who never questioned a single decision. Keith Richards drifted through life as if even fate couldn't touch him, overdosing, surviving, and flashing a mocking smirk as if death itself had refused to take the risk. And somewhere along the way, Page realized something else. He needed more control. He needed to understand music on a deeper level, so he taught himself how to read it. No formal schooling, no strict training, just obsession, discipline, and self-education. Then, picture this. Altamont, 1969. A free concert, a night soaked in dread, and nothing would ever feel the same again.
Hell's Angels were hired as security. That alone should have been a warning. A darkness began moving through the crowd, slow at first, then faster, like a pulse building pressure, seconds from bursting. And then it happened, the moment that permanently changed rock history. Blood spilled in front of the stage, violence, raw and undeniable, broadcast to the world. Jimmy Page watched the news as it broke. That night, the dream of the 60s died. Peace shattered, illusion collapsed. The world finally understood something it had refused to admit before. Rock music wasn't just art anymore. It was dangerous. It could unleash violence. It could pull demons out of an audience and force them into the open. Led Zeppelin absorbed that realization and transformed it into fuel. They learned that danger sold out stadiums faster than purity ever could. Page understood that the Stones had opened a door straight to hell, and Zeppelin would later walk through it with fire in their hands. But where the Stones ruled the streets, sin, vice, sweat, and swagger, the next band on Page's unspoken list abandoned the streets entirely. They left Earth. Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd didn't explode outward, they collapsed inward. Their music didn't strike like a blade, it crept under the skin. It seeped into the bloodstream like a slow, deliberate poison. Page admired how Floyd could make a listener feel lost inside his own mind without ever saying a single direct sentence. They didn't build songs, they built worlds. Their studio became a psychological labyrinth. Their sound wasn't just music, it hovered somewhere between hallucination and hypnosis. Picture this. Page in the late 60s, sitting alone in a dim studio corner, hearing Interstellar Overdrive for the first time. The room stopped feeling like a room. Time stretched. Reality softened. The walls seemed to ripple as if they were melting. And over it all hovered Syd Barrett's fragile genius, beautiful, unstable, breaking in real time. What emerged was art so haunting, it felt almost forbidden to witness. Page saw what happened when drugs, pressure, and brilliance collided inside a human soul, and it terrified him, because it looked like a future he recognized. Addiction, burnout, paranoia, fame that devours you alive. Pink Floyd taught Page that sound could be a dimension, that music wasn't just notes, it was architecture inside the brain. They painted emotions with silence, delay, and echo. They built landscapes of fear, loneliness, and existential dread. If the Beatles built the kingdom above ground and rewrote the rules, Pink Floyd constructed the cathedral beneath it, where pain, confusion, and doubt lived. Page studied their atmospheres like spells, like secret formulas. He wanted Zeppelin to have power, not just loud power, but deep, intoxicating, eternal power. And then, just as those floating, dreamlike visions dissolved, Page's mind snapped back into something far more physical. Pure violence, pure energy. The Who. The Who didn't play concerts, they detonated them. Page remembered nights when the stage lights trembled like warning signals before the first impact. Pete Townshend smashing guitars as if performing an ancient ritual sacrifice. Wood splintering in violent slow motion. Every swing destroying another rule Old England tried to force onto young musicians. And Keith Moon on drums, uncontrollable, chaotic, burning with the manic fire of a man sprinting through a collapsing building, completely fearless, completely unstoppable. Rock had become a weapon, and everyone in the room knew it.
Before the lights even settled, Roger Daltrey was already swinging the microphone like a weapon, an iron pendulum cutting through the air, howling as if every scream might be the last breath he'd ever get. The Who's concerts weren't shows, they were battlefields disguised as rock performances, not entertainment, release, pure catharsis. Jimmy Page watched in awe as The Who turned rage into ritual. They didn't hide their fury, they sharpened it. Where other bands chased beauty, The Who chased impact. Volume was pushed to the edge of human endurance until music stopped being something you heard and became something you survived. Long before Zeppelin ever set foot on an arena stage, The Who proved that rock wasn't meant to be polite, it was meant to be felt in the bones. To Page, they represented the rawest collision of violence and theater rock had ever seen, the demolition crew that cleared the ground before Zeppelin would build its empire of sonic magic.
Their chaos forced him to think bigger, to imagine a fusion of power and mysticism, noise and ceremony. And as those memories faded, Page drifted into the final and most personal name on his list. This wasn't a band of destruction. This was something else entirely, a force of cosmic transformation. The one that came before Zeppelin and quietly rewired the direction of Page's life forever. The Jimi Hendrix experience. The first time Page saw Jimi Hendrix, it felt like the earth cracked open beneath his feet. Hendrix didn't seem mortal. He didn't even feel like he belonged to this planet. His playing wasn't performance, it was ritual, a transmission from somewhere beyond the room, beyond the era. Page remembered that first night in London, Hendrix walking in like a silent explosion. No fear, no hesitation, as if every molecule in the room bent instinctively to his presence. And the moment Hendrix began to play, Page felt his blood turn cold. This wasn't just rock music. This was creation and destruction happening at the same time. Page had always believed the guitar had limits. Hendrix erased that belief in seconds. He didn't use distortion as an effect. He used it as emotion, bending pain, desire, madness, and joy into living sound. He didn't imitate the blues. He tore it out by the roots and rebuilt it into something otherworldly, like a spirit trying to claw its way through the material world. Page watched Hendrix pull the impossible from 6 strings, screams, warps, ghosts, waterfalls, thunder, entire universes summoned by one instrument and 10 fingers. Every guitarist in London felt threatened. Every guitarist in America felt unprepared. Hendrix didn't enter rock history. He rewrote the rules. Wherever he went, the atmosphere changed. People followed him like a comet, some in fear, others in worship. Page felt both. But gods burn faster than mortals ever could. Hendrix lived too fast for gravity to keep up. Drugs, exhaustion, paranoia, fame closing in from every direction. By the time Led Zeppelin began its rise, Hendrix was already fading, his brilliance surrounded by shadows. When he died in 1970, at just 27 years old, Page felt the universe lose one of its brightest flames. Hendrix never lived to see Zeppelin conquer stadiums. He didn't need to, because Hendrix had already shown Page and the world what a true guitar god looked like. Before Zeppelin reached full power, the path had already been scorched. What if Led Zeppelin was never meant to stand alone? What if their power came from flames already burning long before they ever struck a chord? Hendrix conquered dimensions, and as Jimmy Page sits in the silence of memory, this isn't surrender speaking, it's legacy telling the truth. Led Zeppelin was unstoppable, yes, but they were forged in fires lit by others. The Beatles created the world, the Stones corrupted it, Pink Floyd questioned it, The Who tore it apart, and Hendrix transcended it. Only now does Page fully see it. Every era of rock was a chapter, and Zeppelin was just one, loud, thunderous, unforgettable, but still part of a much larger story. These bands shaped him, they pushed him forward, they frightened him, they humbled him. Without them, there is no Zeppelin mythology, no stadium revolution, no riffs crashing like thunder across generations. They were the blueprint before he ever built his temple. Picture Page now, eyes closed, memories flickering like a silent film, the smell of aging vinyl, the burn of dusty backstage whiskey, the electricity of crowds roaring like oceans. He understands something most legends never admit. No victory belongs to one band alone. Rock was a chain reaction, each band lighting the next fuse, each generation carrying the flame deeper into the night. Zeppelin's echo still lives because giants stood before them. And in that realization, Page finally understands that greatness isn't about conquering the battlefield. It's about honoring the forces that forged it. Greatness is knowing you were part of something bigger than yourself, something wild, dangerous, and impossible to contain. And as long as the world keeps listening, those echoes and Zeppelins will never stop vibrating through time, carried from turntables to digital waves and into whatever the future becomes. If you love stories from the heart of rock history, hit that like button, subscribe to Golden Screen Actors, and ring the bell so you never miss a moment of musical legend. Because the next great story is just one click away.